All right. So we've been doing this wholesale class once a month for a while now. Uh, I would say since September. So we're maybe even longer. And it's kind of like a rotating event. For me, it's like what I'm going to show this month will not be the same as last month, so that you would come on and keep learning because it's not a one-time learn all kind of deal. All right. So what I'm going to mention, Gwen, last month I went through the forms, the paperwork, the closing, the coordination, earnest money down kind of stuff, what's expected. I showed my one of my deals in Astoria, which was really a ballpark, hit it out of the park kind of deal because of the way it ended up. Um, and every month I go through the steps of wholesaling, so I'll always like review the steps of wholesaling. Um, we will always talk about marketing in wholesaling because it's really not a real estate business that we're in. It is really a marketing business. All right. So we'll talk about marketing. And last month we went over quite a bit about Oregon law, preparing everybody to come to the main meeting, which was last week in downtown Eugene, in which we had an attorney, real estate attorney, Pablo Valentine, go over what to look for with the new law changes. So Oregon is going through a change in wholesale law. So let's just say there wasn't a law for wholesaling, so we were just doing wholesaling without there being a law to say yes you can do it or can't do it or whatever, but it was just like we were doing it. And now there's going to be a law that you have to get a license to wholesale, except for you, Gwen, because you're a realtor. Yeah, you don't have to get a license, but you have to be aware to make sure that you're establishing um, a disclosure
Hmm.
on your contract that you're going to be wholesaling it. All right.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was thinking about because she is a seller. So I
Mhm.
sent her, there's a disclosure, buyers, sellers, agency disclosures. And I was thinking, I was like, do I have her sign this or do I have her sign? Do I need to make my own disclosure? And I guess
Yeah,
that answers the
right. If,
question.
if you're not going to list it, you need a
Mhm.
different disclosure. You
Yeah.
need a wholesale disclosure. And I would think, I don't know who your uh, top realtor person, who your shingles under,
Principal broker.
Principal
principal
broker.
broker, thank you very much, is, but I would think they would know what that disclosure is currently under the law. As of July 1st, it'll be like probably a full page disclosure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do have a little bit of information on that. The thing is that Pablo Valentine and I forgot her name, Kelsey, who did the presentation from Hirschner Hunter, said that the disclosures, while they are written in the law, they haven't come up with a form yet through the Oregon Bar Association or through the Real Estate Board of Oregon Law. All right. So he's going to be watching for that and then they'll get it out to us. I think he'll get a lot of new clients, maybe, that want to have that disclosure. The thing is, if the Oregon Real Estate Board does not create the document for us to copy and paste into into a form, then you're going to have to hire an attorney to look at the law and write it up for you, which could happen. All right. Pablo's really hoping that the real estate board will create it for us. The license is $300 per year, which is not, I don't think that's a breaking deal. And so, and if we can get more into that later. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to start about getting started in wholesaling. So I think this will be up Lindsay's, Rosalba's, and Kurt's kind of thing here. Okay. Getting starting, where to focus. All right, let's see. Oh, let's see. Um, so basically in real estate investing, we all call it becoming squirrels and like going after this and that and all that kind of thing is like because there's always these golden nuggets. Oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do this. Oh, I could do that because that fits my personality better. Oh, that looks interesting. And there's just so many things. So right here, I just have a list of 6 different types of real estate investing. But there's more. There's lots more. These are the ones that you might have heard of on Bigger Pockets that you mentioned, Kurt. And so wholesaling, flipping houses, buy and hold, invest in other people's investment properties, house hackings, and REITs. So house hacking is like a combination of flipping where you move in and fix it and then sell it, or you move into half of a duplex, fix fix the other side up, rent it, and fix up your side and sell it, whatever. Okay. And then there's REITs, which is real estate investment trust funds, which means you're putting your money into a pool to invest in large apartment buildings, stuff like that. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. Okay, so wholesaling. First, I'm going to say what wholesaling is not. Let me move this. It's not a day at the beach. Wholesaling is work. All right. Wholesaling is not buying houses, and wholesaling is not selling houses. What is it then? It's getting the property under contract. A, getting permission to show the property from the seller, show the property, show the contract, sell the contract. These are the 5 basic things with wholesaling. Now, I think a lot of others will say it's just A, B, C. A, you find a property. B, you put it under contract. C, you sell the contract to the end user. But there's quite a bit in that ABC. Once it's get the property under contract, get permission to show the property. That's kind of like a big thing. Like what I do is I'll bring a sign with me, put a sign out front. I will put a lockbox and key on the door and that kind of thing so they know I'm going to show the property, whether or not they're living there or not, or if it's vacant, then show the property. So you got to get investors to see the property, and then they're going to want to see the contract because you're actually selling the contract. You're not selling the house, right? Yes.
When you're 2 quick questions, and if you'd like me to leave all questions to the end, please let
Oh,
me know.
no, fine. Let's go.
Okay. First question is, are you, I think in the past, sometimes with wholesale transactions, the seller has been confused, not knowing that the contract could be assigned. So you're upfront telling them with these contracts, we're
Yeah.
going to assign it to another buyer. Is that correct?
Ooh, that's the next slide.
Okay. And then if I could ask,
Yeah.
just on the previous slide, the seller, are you asking for permission in the contract to be able to
Yeah.
do showings?
In my contract, it will have in there that I can show it. Okay. Um, let's see. I've got a share screen bar that's in my way here. Can't move it. Hopefully it's not in your way. Okay, so the seller understands that you, the wholesaler's intention is to find an end buyer. You want to be upfront with that, okay? You're not buying it, you're finding somebody else to buy it, all right? And that is going to be in those new disclosures that are coming out July 1st that you will need to use. It will make the playing field much more even from the other wholesalers that might not be so upfront with their verbiage, with their contracts, with their talking to the seller. So it's going to, in my opinion, I think that's a good thing that this is happening. So yes, you're going to tell them that your intention is to find an end buyer, at which point you will assign the contract to that end buyer for a fee. Who's going to pay that fee? The end buyer, not the seller. So the seller has an agreement with you that you are buying and or signs the house, the property as is.
Yeah.
All right. And then my agreements have very little stuff in there like inspections or anything like that. It's just all about the funding. And the funding means finding that end buyer, somebody to fund the deal.
And if you don't mind
That's
me adding a bit to that, so what you mean by, people not being so upfront is I'm sure you've seen Kurt online when people talk about this, they say, "Oh, I'm an investor and my partner is going to buy it," and then they have to find that partner. That's, what this law is trying to clear up.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
and yeah, and in the contract, when the final buyer comes in, once the contract's been assigned to them, does the seller see the full purchase price amount?
No, no,
That's
they
what title's
The
for.
seller's only receiving what was in the initial contract
right.
that you put them under contract in. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
All that
yeah,
in between stuff is done through the escrow agent at closing. Or
okay,
if you went outside of an escrow and you used an attorney, but they still, there has to be an escrow involved. So
okay,
I use Evergreen Land Title here in Eugene to do all mine. So they're very, very aware of how this works, as well as that fee. Okay.
There
okay,
is a lot of online data scraping though. So when it's recorded, sold for price, the contract, a lot of, all of it's going to be recorded. So at some point, Zillow might grab onto that and put that it was last sold for that amount.
But
So it is completely possible. I explain to people exactly what's going on.
yeah, that's really good, Gwen, and I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because
and
most likely they're gonna find out what it
Yeah.
was really sold for.
one more quick question, and then I'll stop asking too many
Okay.
questions. The eh, how legally binding is the initial contract with you as the wholesaler? If they want to terminate or say, hey, my uncle told me this home's actually worth 20,000 more, can I get out of this contract? Is it legally binding, or have you had people back out, sellers back out, even after you put the legwork in?
So I would think that Kurt, that would have to do with your agreement, how it's stated in there.
Hmm.
Um, if so, sometimes my agreement says if you find another buyer that will pay more than this such and such amount, I will back out. If you can close in within the same time as we're doing, blah blah blah. I mean, you just have some things, but just because your brother says it's worth more, then that's not a reason to close a contract to get out of
Right,
it. But if they
right.
find another buyer, yeah. I mean, it just all depends on your agreement and Sue. Okay.
Thank you.
I like your questions, everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so finding first of all, we're looking for distressed sellers and distressed properties. All right. I can get a lot of distressed sellers, but the property's not distressed. And I would rather not go into all of this as a wholesaler if the property's not also distressed because they could sell it on the MLS if the property's not distressed. Okay, we as I was putting together tonight's slides, I had to do a little mental shift in what because of what's going on in the economy in order to present this to you. Back in the recession time, which wasn't too long ago in my experience, the MLS was a source for finding distressed properties. There were more properties for sale than there were buyers. But for the last since COVID, 2019, 2018, there's been less property. There's been more buyers than there has been sellers, all right? So I would never go for looking for distressed property on the MLS in the last 6 years. That's probably going to change because what we call days on market, DOM, is going to get longer, and it is getting longer right now. It's not 6 months yet, but it is more like 3 months. And back a couple years ago, it was like 24 hours that a listing was on the market. So it might be in the future that you might be hooking up with a realtor and say, send me properties that are distressed. Look for a handyman special. You tell the realtor, look for need some work, need some TLC, these kind of things is what the realtors would put on the listing. So that then they could do a search and send it to you every morning. Auctions is another way that you might find distressed properties, distressed sellers for sure. But the thing about an auction is that you've got a lot of competition. So the reason I've stayed away from MLS and auctions for the last several years is because there's a lot of competition and I don't need that kind of competition. I'll just do my own marketing to find what's number 3 sellers on there. So auctions, the thing about an auction is you have to come with the money. As a wholesaler, how often are you going to have the money to come with the money to an auction and be competitive? Probably not. So it's not a good idea. So number 3 is my ding, 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 which is sellers. I'm looking for distressed sellers now. I'm not, for the last 6 years, 8 years, whatever, I've been looking for distressed sellers. We'll talk more about that. Wholesalers is another place to get properties if you're going to flip it. If you're going to wholesale it, forget it. Somebody else is wholesaling it already. But if you're looking for a property to flip, then there's a thing. Back in the Great Recession time period, this wholesaling market was so hot here in Oregon that there were gurus teaching young, scrappy wholesalers to just get a wholesaler contract from another wholesaler and sell that. So I'm like Lindsay, who's going, what the heck? No.
Oh, are you-
It was really, really wrong to be selling somebody else's wholesale contract to find somebody else. And I mean, they were really scrappy. But I do think we're a bunch of scrappy real estate investors here. You know, we're not driving in limousines or anything like that. So I continue on and all right. So now I'm going into marketing. How do you find those sellers? Like I said in the very beginning of this is a marketing business, basically. Wholesaling is a marketing business. Not only are you marketing to sellers, you're marketing to buyers. So you got both ends going. All right. Which makes the reason why it is difficult, but you got to put the work in, put the ingenuity in, and that kind of stuff, and you can do it. All right. Steps to this would be before you even get the contract, you got to do marketing. You got to do a lot of negotiating. You got to make a lot of offers. You got to do a lot of due diligence. And by due diligence, I mean finding out what the repairs are. All right. And then you get that contract. All right. And then you market it to the buyers. What are some ideas for marketing? You guys probably have more than just this, but bandit signs. I have my car is all placarded out with signs. Google AdWords I used to do, but I'm not good with that's a lot of money for Google AdWords and SEO rankings and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't mind SEO rankings. It's just Google AdWords. Doing ads on Facebook, Instagram. Facebook Reels really help because they stay out there for a while and people watch video. So using YouTube and video is awesome and helps. Having a website and then getting it to rank SEOs. SEO stands for search engine optimization. And I use my websites are powered by I forgot, but the company is called On Carrot or Carrot, and they do real estate investor websites, and they're great and easy to learn. I do a lot of mailers, and the big thing here is like getting database leads. All right, and then there's driving for dollars, and all right, so you got to have a way to research the buyers. I mean the sellers, but just wanted to focus in on the amount of work of wholesaling. This would be the day in the life or the week in the life of a wholesaler that's really profitable. Makes 100 calls on Monday, and in those calls gets 1 out of 5 people that actually answer the phone, makes 4 appointments, and then actually holds a couple appointments and signs a contract. This would be an awesome day Monday. Tuesday, same day, same thing. Wednesday, same thing. So if you can imagine yourself making 100 phone calls. One of my students who took this class with me a long time ago, he did texting rather than 100 phone calls. And so he was actually texting and not using a robo text center or anything like that. So he was actually texting, so it's not illegal if you're actually manually putting them in. And it worked for him. People respond to text more than they respond to phone calls, especially if you have a good lead. All right, so my big thing here is like have a functional database, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, Trello, or website stuff like that you might set up. Have a functional sellers database so that you can remember to go back to them when they say, I have spreadsheets, and then I have my uh, uh, these books that I carry around with me in the car. So when somebody calls in from my mail generated prospecting, I can have a conversation with them, write it down, and then I highlight it on my spreadsheet, the date of the phone call and that kind of stuff. So when I follow up, I can say something about the last time we talked or what have you. But this, I just like, I bet you a lot of you make a list of your to-do list. So that might be, then when I have one of those, I need to follow up with the next day, it's on my list. Okay, so you're wondering about Thursday and Friday? A day in the life of the perfect wholesaler would be Thursday, creating the announcements for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, putting out blasts to all the buyers out there, sending emails, sending texts, and now holding 2 appointments to sell that contract to show a walkthrough, all right? How many of you guys have contacted, know a wholesaler, been through a wholesale walkthrough? I think you have, Gwen, yeah. Yeah, so let's see if I have that on my list. It will come up, but one of my slides will say that you need to probably, and you can write it down now, is get on wholesalers lists. All right, so maybe Google wholesaler Oregon or something like that and see if you can find. Property Max is the one that comes down to Eugene. They're called Property MAX, and they are on the, when they're looking for sellers, they're called Investor Max. When they're looking for the flippers, they're Property Max. And so if you can get on their list and see when they're showing a property, and they will text you or email you, and then you can say, yeah, I'll be there at 10 o'clock tomorrow. It's usually like a tomorrow thing. Okay, what you're looking for now is an anxious owner, all right, where no reasonable offer will be refused. I thought that was just a cute slide. And if you're driving for dollars, you're looking for places that are look like Eugene, basically, lots of overgrown grass and kind of things. But you want to be able to talk to them, get to the end game is to become friends with them. All right, so here is, let me see if I can see what this says.
Are you going to talk about recommended margins?
Yeah, I will get to that. Yeah, in the math
Thank you.
part. What time is it? Okay, I'm halfway through. So probate leads, this is where I get my leads. 198,000 probate leads generated every month, probably just west of the Mississippi. There's a lot of probates. A lot of people are dying. 2.4 million tax liens. I just recently decided I was going to look into tax lien and tax deed leads, and there's a lot of tax liens, tax deeds. Oregon does not sell tax liens, so the difference between tax lien and tax deed is a property. A deed and trust is if you buy the tax deed, you get that property. In a tax lien state, if you buy a tax lien, you make the interest on that tax lien. So they're basically selling the the overdue tax, and you're funding it until that owner pays you off, kind of thing, or they sell the house or what have you. So, all right. Okay, so that's one thing, type of lead, and there we go. All right, so the next is going to be upside down. Having an upside down mortgage is when your house is worth less than what you owe on it. Now, in the last few years, it seems like that would be impossible because the rates or the values of homes in our area have gone up exponentially. So you would think that there would be nobody upside down on their mortgage. However, there are lousy homeowners out there that could have bought the house 3 years ago and they let it go to crap already, and they're already upside down compared to their mortgage. Especially if they got a VA loan or something like that that had very little down. So these are also people that what we would call short sale opportunities. So that's a whole nother game for short sale. And I'm going to talk about that maybe at the next meeting, at the live meeting downtown. Whoops. And like I said, as with the values going up and up, you would think that they will not be coming down, but they are coming down. Values are coming down in current market right now. So unfortunately for me, I have 2 flips out there that were large investments, and the timing is really bad. So, foreclosure. Okay, pre-foreclosure list. Let's talk about this. This is a great place to get a list for free. And the way you do this is get a hold of a title company, because they will send you these lists of pre-foreclosures monthly, weekly, whatever, however they're set up to do it for free. They know that there's real estate investors out there looking for pre-foreclosure deals, and it's up to you, the wholesaler, to get in contact with the person that's in pre-foreclosure before it gets foreclosed on, and get a deal with them and get them out of the foreclosure cycle, and get that house sold for them before it goes into foreclosure. Or you can even contact the trustee and tell them that you're in contract to purchase the house, and so please pause the foreclosure for now. I'm expecting a question here. No? Oh, okay. Any other questions on wholesaling besides the dollars?
Since I let you down on the previous slide without a question, didn't mean to disappoint, but from the notice of foreclosure or notice of default, is it 6 months typically in the state of Oregon from like when they get the notice of default until they foreclose on it, or is it very situationally dependent?
Good question. This isn't a foreclosure class, but I will tell you that there's 2 types of foreclosures in Oregon. There is judicial and non-judicial. All right. Judicial, they could put it on the sheriff's site. So you go to your county, look at that sheriff's listing for foreclosures, all right? And they're basically 1 month out from the date of notice, the notice of default. I call it the nod. Okay, so 1 month out. And it's going to go through the courthouse foreclosure. Got to bring your check to the courthouse to buy it. The caveat is that the homeowner has 6 months to rectify the situation and pay off the foreclosure amount, including the interest, the fees, the attorney fees, and the foreclosure fees, okay, and the mortgage, right? All right, they got to pay it all off. They can't just catch it up, but they got to pay it all off. So they have 6 months. It's called the redemption right. It's called 6-month redemption right in Oregon. That's for judicial foreclosures, and you find those on the judicial pages, so the county pages, okay? Then there's the non-judicial. That's 6 months, all right, from the date of the nod. So from the notice of default goes out from a trustee instead of the sheriff, goes out from the trustee, and they've got 6 months. And so those are the ones that'll be on the title company's list, will be the trust, not the sheriff's list, because everybody can see the sheriff's list. What you want in addition to that would be the trustees list, and gives you 6 months to get to that seller or owner, would be seller, right? To talk them off a ledge. Okay. And then if it goes to foreclosure, they have no right of redemption. So if you actually go to a trustee foreclosure, then and you win, they have no redemption rights. You can kick them out of the house immediately, get an FED an eviction notice on them right away, get the sheriff's over there to say you're evicted, etc.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. One consequences of wholesaling is all your profit that you make is taxable. So whatever tax bracket you've now put yourself in with all that money, it's going to go to the IRS in the state of Oregon, all right? So like I just kind of like say 35%, 25%. So, you might say I made 80,000, but 60,000 was actually my gross income or my net income. All right, let's see. This is, okay, life cycle of real estate investing. First of all, you're going to generate your seller leads. Very important. Analyze the deal. Make the offer. Fund the deal, which is finding your end buyer, right? Okay, they're going to rehab the property, and then they're going to sell the property. So we're going back to analyze the deal now. Oops, I gotta go through this again. Okay. All right, so that little chart was about flipping. What I want to do now is start with analyzing the deal. How do you find your ARV? Your ARV stands for your after repair value. So that's important as a wholesaler because you got to figure out what the flipper wants. The flipper wants to know the ARV, how much they can make. So you have to figure out an easy way to find your ARV is to take Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor.com. All three of these are not associated. If you use Zillow and Trulia, they're the same company, so don't do that. You want Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor.com and see what they have for comps, comparatives that have recently sold and are fixed up and Mac Daddy great, right? Used to be you could find a lot of these. It's getting harder and harder now. So here's like a picture of a house in Eugene and the comparables of it. You can see the Zestimate. Probably when I took that picture and put it on this, Zestimates were higher than they were actually worth, and Zillow took a beating because they got into the market of flipping. And all the investors saw this coming because they were buying from they were really competing with us, right? So they're buying from sellers and they're giving them the Zestimate price, and we knew it was way too high, but Zillow wasn't putting feet on the ground here, there, and everywhere and finding out that it was too high, nor looking to see what the repairs are. And so then they would buy it and then try to sell it to the flippers in the area. And they're like, they lost a lot of money all over the nation. Their stocks plummeted. So this was an incredible time a few years ago, and we just all laughed. All right, so in this case, you can see that the comps then, and it's sold, they say sold 2 months ago, and they're all in the same neighborhood. So that might be where you would click on it, take a look at the pictures, and see was it fixed up? Because you're looking for clicking on it, seeing if it's fixed up. Because if it's fixed up, 3 beds, 2 baths, same neighborhood, whatever, then you got an after repair value. There are programs available, and one of them would be like, I think that's my next slide, Bigger Pockets to help you with that, Real Flow. I currently use, and I've always used my own, this is with Oregon RIA. We have a repair estimator add on to your membership if you want, and it figures out your repairs. Okay, so you start with your after repair value, and if any of you have been listening to Bigger Pockets, you take the after repair value, you multiply it by 75% or whatever kind of margin you think is good for that house. And I'll explain that in a second. And then you deduct the repairs, and that gives you your maximum allowable offer. So in this case, I can't see 477,000. times 75% minus 125,000 something gives me an MAO, maximum allowable offer, 232,449. And so that's your offer you're going to make to your seller. Okay, I mentioned that you might not use 75%. In a case where the property value is 477,000, you might use 80% instead and make the margin a little smaller because the dollar amount's still large, because 477,000 is a lot of money. If it's $150,000 ARV, then yeah, you're definitely going to use 75,000, maybe, I mean 75% or 70%, because you need more cushion for more dollars in that. So I would say, so if it's $150,000, $200,000 ARV, which is nothing right now in this market, then you're going to want to do it times 70% minus repairs. All right. Any questions on that?
Maybe all the information's not in front of me or I wasn't listening well. Do you have an additional percentage you're multiplying this by to get your MAO?
No. No, okay, so that 70%, 75%, 80%, which is it's really clean, easy, and it takes it's basically supposed to take into account the closing in the end, your closing costs, your holding costs, and accidental. So let's see, I think I have another screen on that. Hang on.
Oh, I see. I see that calculation at the bottom. I missed that. I apologize. That's 75% that your initial
Oh, yeah.
multiplication.
Okay,
Okay, that
great.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I
This
was
is
just a little slow.
if you want to check it out on Oregon RIA's site, there's the website. Oh, and that's talking about the leads. Let's see. Okay, this is one of my flips. Let's see. Okay. All right. So what we're looking at is you're figuring out the money down payment for that the flipper, right? So the flipper is going to go get hard money, right? So, and they'll have to put, depending on their connection with their hard money lender, how much they'll have to put down. So currently, for the past few years, the hard money lender has been lending off of the ARV. All right. They're not looking at the cost, they're looking at how much it's going to be when it's done. And they might lend at 75% of ARV. So if your maximum allowable offer is already at 75% of the ARV, that really helps the end buyer, your flipper, to be able to get the loan. I can see Lindsay's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
uh, uh,
And and I know you talked about sourcing your money. I don't mean to get too off topic. Do you recommend or have you done? Actually, never mind. I'm not gonna
oh, you
get
can.
into that. Well, have you done your own flips or do you flip as well, right?
Yeah.
And not just wholesale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So
started off with I keep telling myself I'm not going to flip anymore, but I keep doing it.
gotcha.
I keep buying them,
Yeah.
roping people
Have you
in.
gone the hard money route with
Yeah,
flips?
yeah, yeah. So my hard money lender he's a member of the RIA. His name is Zach Smith. He's a vendor member. He's Seaton Funds, and they're really cool because they're upfront about the fees. They don't have a bunch of junk fees on whereas other uh, hard money lenders do, and you just know what you're getting right up front, so you don't have to read all the fine print. Let's see, I'm looking at my notes here. Oh, huh. Okay. So this is where it says staging at the end. That's supposed to be stuff that goes wrong, not staging. STGR, stuff that goes wrong. All right. So normally the flipper is going to need a down payment, right? And the down payment, when lending is tight, then it takes at least 20% down to get. So okay, here's the thing. when lending gets tight, and it's getting tight right now, it's starting to squeeze because of the politics. So the market's getting really shaky. So as lending gets tight, then it takes at least 20% down to get into actually buying a property. So in other words, even if your maximum allowable offer is 75% of the ARV minus repairs, that person that's actually going to flip it is going to probably need money to put down, or pay for their own repairs. So, okay, I'm getting in the weeds here. When lending is looser, like it was yesterday, last year, it's possible, like I was saying, that 75% of the ARV is pretty good for if the flipper can fund their own rehab. I fund my own rehabs all the time, so usually I'm just getting a check that goes straight to the seller, and then I'm funding my own rehab. A lot of flippers have to get money from that hard money lender to also pay for their rehab. So I think I'm getting a little bit into the weeds, but what they're considering is the rehab costs, the closing costs. They have to pay the closing right now because your agreement will say that the seller doesn't need to pay any closing costs pretty much. So now the buyer's paying the closing costs. Now what happens, Gwen, when I go to list it, when it's all done, who's usually paying the closing costs?
Seller.
The seller. So I have to pay it twice.
Mhm.
I pay it now and I pay it later as a flipper. So there's a lot of closing costs that we have to consider. That second closing cost, which is when it's worth a lot more, and now I'm paying two realtors their commissions, is going to be a lot more than that initial closing cost, right? I also have to pay all my interest monthly payments. So my hard money lenders charging me interest only payments. And so that might be $1,000 a month I'm paying. And then I'm also paying for insurance, electric, water, taxes, depending on how long I hold it. So those are called interest payments, insurance payments, water, electric, whatever. Those are called holding costs that the flipper is considering. And then there was that last one, which is not staging, is stuff that goes wrong, which that's what the flipper is going to be thinking about. Like, so they'll have like a miscellaneous idea in their mind of how much, and that depends on the flipper. The more advanced flipper, that margin is going to be smaller. The beginner is going to be bigger, or they're just whack. I don't know. Okay, so this is the basics of flipping. You're taking care of the market, you're taking care of the negotiation, you're taking care of the numbers. All right. Three out of six, they're doing the rest. And again, the flipper has to pay the taxes up front too. They're paying cash. They're getting the cash. It's not an investment, so they're paying big time taxes. I think I'm done with this for now. Yeah. All right. Do you guys have any questions on the flipping part? Because you do have to be aware of the flipping part as a wholesaler. And I'm going to stop the screen share. No? All right.
Do you have just one more quick question? Do you ever have buyers that try and basically attack your numbers if they don't feel like your due diligence was accurate? Or do you just move on to the next buyer? Like, do you find yourself having to like renegotiate on the buyer side heavily in terms of how much you're making and things like that?
All right. So if my numbers are too high and I'm paying too much for the property, I have to go back to the seller, and I let them know up front that that can happen when they're signing that document, that agreement, to let them know that if I can't find that end of buyer, that means the price is too high, and I will come back to you. Also, another thing that I'll come back to the seller is to extend the agreement. If they wanted it done in a month's time, and I said, great, I'll do it, And as long as I find that person that can buy it in that quick of time, then yes. But many times I come back and say, okay, got a buyer, but they need until the 30th of something else, whatever. And so they'll sign an addendum. So basically, two different types of addendums are common as a wholesaler. One is to reduce the price, and the other is to increase the time.
And
Right.
are your margins typically within your profit margins as the wholesaler? Are those typically like 6% or less? Or what kind of range do you try and profit?
Well, that's a good question, Kurt. All right. I don't. So you could. Um, when I got into this, I thought, 5,000 would be good. Um, I have always gone off of the negotiation, and in the negotiation, and I'll do a Wednesday night or a wholesaling night on negotiation, which is I get it as low as possible. So I would say, how much do you need? And then if that's in my ballpark, I'll sign it up for that. I had a situation, and this is more common than not, and I'll give you an example. This was in Grand Ronde uh, area, and it had a couple acres of land, and the seller wanted out of it so bad that I got it for the price of the land, minus the cost to remove the manufactured home that was terrible on it. So she was so mad about the renters that had totally destroyed her house, and so she sold it. The agreement was to sell it to me as a wholesaler for the price of the land minus 20,000 to remove the the thing. All right, so I quickly got a contractor to buy it, a flipper contractor company wanted it real fast. Um, and I was at a $40,000 margin on that. The reason I ended up only getting $30,000 for it is because that company that was hot-headed and moving in on my contract seemed like they were going to cut me out and go directly to the seller. Since then, I have another provision in place so that they can't do that. But my provision at that time was I got a hold of Zach with Seton Funds, and I told him about it. And so he quickly loaned me the money to buy the whole place. And then the next day I sold it to the contractors. And just to borrow the money with all the fees and all that kind of stuff cost me $10,000 to do it an overnight hold. So, but I still was happy with 30,000. But those contractors, man, they were ruthless in dealing with me, always calling and calling me a liar, blah, blah, blah. Like, because they were trying to see the property and the renters. I told them they're gonna have to evict them. I didn't evict them. You're gonna have to evict them, and then they wanted me to evict them. Like, no, I told you you have to evict them, and all this kind of stuff. So it just went rounds and rounds, and I just knew that they were just trying to muscle me out. So I just ended up buying it and selling it to them directly. Any other questions? Are we good?
Are there classes that you would recommend, or because I've been looking at a lot of online portals for classes. One of them that I've been really looking at is somebody from they're stationed out of San Diego. They're kind of one of the top websites that generate on Google, basically. But yeah, I'm mainly I just would like to know if you have any suggestions for any classes that can be taken um, to do wholesaling, especially through the state of Oregon.
No, I don't. So I have offered mentorships, which has worked well for the people that have done the mentorship. And it's like a 6-month mentorship. I didn't do one this year. I took a break. 6-month mentorship, which is $5,000 for the 6 months, and then I give you lots of homework and things to do and all that kind of stuff. And I have not and then it's much more hands-on. It's Oregon. It's with the laws of Oregon, and I also want you to be successful because basically I might end up partnering with you. It's that kind of thing. So, which has happened. So I think buyer beware of those big ones out there. Um, the the things that I have found. Okay, so all right. I have brought in. I used to be the president of Northwest RIA up in Portland, and brought in speakers. And that's the thing you do is you bring in selling speakers, and then they sell a program. And I brought in somebody who has a big business on teaching this kind of thing, and half of his stuff did not work that he ended up sending out of his, uh, you know, links and all you could do this and that. And he's just like fire hosing you all the time. I mean, I took the class too, but it's just like I have found that to be the case with more of these gurus out there is they send out so much stuff to confuse you all the time that then they end up trying to sell you a mentorship, which is tens, 20,000s, 30s, whatever. So rather than just do it step by step, the way I teach it is you do the work, okay? You don't get on some list, you don't pay $100 or $400 a month for some list. You go and you call your title companies. You call your title companies and you ask them if you can meet with the sales rep, okay? They have a sales rep, they are marketing, they expect to have a one-on-one with you, all right? You go in and tell them you want lists. We talked about a foreclosure list, right? Everybody wants a foreclosure list. It's easy money. But what you can do is find out how 2 months, okay, try to complete a thought here, Grace, okay, is to ask them, can you get me a list of high equity homeowners, meaning that they have a lot of equity in their home and they're in their 80s? They have that information. How do they figure that out? They figured out what was bought in 1970, therefore it must be paid off, and they're old, basically. And they have a lot of data going into these lists, and you get it for how much a month? Free.
Okay. So
Okay. So
okay.
Chad is with Evergreen Land Title, who I do business with. He was the speaker at our last in our March meeting, and he went over a new product in which you can manipulate your own searches. So he used to be with Cascade Title. Are you the one that's in Philomath? Oh, you're in Albany. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah. Republican Title Company, I think's up there. Republic,
Tycor.
Tycor.
You don't like Tycor very much. Yeah.
I just had a bad week with them last week out
Oh,
in Astoria. Yeah, which I had to create the document so they could finish the closing. Did they even say thank you? Did they even say I got it? Nothing. The reason why, all right, so Tycor, I can look up Albany and see the one in Astoria didn't even have a title manager on staff. They only had escrow officers and a salesperson. So you want somebody who has a title department. The reason Evergreen, okay, if you can do this, try to find a company that's WFG affiliated, Williston Financial Group. So my Evergreen Land Title is an affiliate of Williston Financial Group. They're out of Portland or Seattle or whatever, and they're big, and they are really great at working with investors. They're companies that are underneath them. So
Hey
Um,
Grace, can me and you chat a little bit after the class is done, if you have a moment?
okay. Well, yeah, let me go ahead and quit recording. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. You guys can reach out to me by email. You have to do it to grace@oria.net or grace@gratefulnutshomes.net. .com if you want to email me, but my phone number is also on the website, all right?
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I hope to hear from you. I
Thank
hope
you.
to see you again. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Grace.
Thanks. Bye. Where's my recording? Stop recording.